February 10, 2000, Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport. A private jet rolls to a stop, and one of the Medellín cartel's most wanted traffickers steps down into the warm Florida night. Two DEA agents are waiting on the tarmac. They don't cuff him, they shake his hand, because this man paid $7 million for tonight. $7 million. To be arrested. First comes dinner in South Beach. Steak, wine, girlfriends at the table, federal agents picking up the check. Only after dessert does he surrender. The broker who sold him this package isn't a lawyer and isn't a fixer. He photographs fashion models in Miami. And cartel bosses will line up to hand this photographer millions for the privilege of handcuffs because he sells the one lie a cartel boss can't help believing, that everything in America is for sale. One family won't believe it. Instead of paying, they'll press record. How does a fashion photographer end up pricing the freedom of the scariest men alive? And when that tape surfaces, who does it actually trap? Miami, 1985. The first thing you need to understand, Baruch Vega did not invent this con. The United States government did, 13 years before the DEA ever touched it. The scene, a Miami hotel suite, a trafficker on one side of the table, and across from him a corrupt American official who can make federal cases disappear for a fee. On the table sits paperwork, apparently sanctioned by the U.S. Attorney's Office. It looks official because the FBI printed it. The corrupt official is an FBI agent named Robert Levinson, playing a part. And the smooth Colombian-born photographer who arranged the meeting is a Miami police handoff-turned-bureau informant named Baruch Vega. The fees the traffickers pay for this imaginary corruption, Vega keeps them. If that sounds too insane for paper, there's paper. An FBI source file dated May 16, 1988, records the take. $50,000 plus 2 Jaguars from the organization of Rodriguez Gacha of the Medellín cartel, and $15,000 from Pablo Escobar's people. After May 16, 1988, nobody official ever gets to claim surprise at anything that comes next. The state builds the stage, the con man prices the ticket. So who prices the ticket? Before the myth, there is a Colombian immigrant with a camera and an accent, lighting other people's beauty for other people's brands. Vega tells his origin grandly, a Bogota childhood, a genius IQ CIA recruitment as a young man. No file confirms a word of it, and that unconfirmed story is the most honest thing in his file. Vega retouches his own past the way he retouches a model's jawline, because under the retouching sits a kid who decided he would rather be anything than nobody. Cash rides in camera cases. A bottle of Merlot stands open and breathing wherever he works. The prop that tells every room everything is fine. By day he shoots fashion campaigns. By night he sells imaginary corruption to Medellín. It's all lighting. But the numbers stay small. 50 grand, 2 cars, a party trick with a badge behind it. For it to become an industry, somebody has to invent demand. Millions of dollars of demand all at once from the most dangerous customer base on earth. Somebody does. December 1997, Bogota. After 6 years of refusing, Colombia restores extradition to the United States. On paper, a diplomatic story. Inside the cartels, it lands like a terminal diagnosis. Colombian prison, these men can manage. They've built suites inside Colombian prisons. American prison is the problem their money has never solved. A boss boards an American plane in handcuffs, and by the time it lands, he is nobody. A number in a concrete box. And fear at that scale doesn't just sit there, it shops. Who hands the FBI's old party trick a federal budget? And what does the first satisfied customer look like walking free? Enter DEA Group 43 out of Miami and an agent named Tinsley. His group runs an operation called Cali Man, and on December 2nd, 1998, the DEA formally documents its newest confidential source, Baruch Vega. The first chain proves the product. The front door is an antiques shop, held open by a dealer named Pizza, a married man who makes his living pricing other people's heirlooms. Traffickers walk in asking about furniture and walk out holding a photographer's phone number. Through Pizza, a trafficker named Correa pays $1.2 million. The figure sits in the DEA's own internal affairs file. And what does Correa get for it? He flies into the United States a wanted man, eats at Miami's restaurants, and leaves free. No cuffs, no cell, no consequences. Vega never runs an ad and never makes a cold call, because Correa strolling through arrivals is the billboard, broadcast on the only network cartels trust, each other. Then the market shows its house rules. March 1999, Pizza, the antiques dealer, the open front door, is shot dead in front of his wife. She is steps away, close enough that the shots reach her before the meaning does, close enough that the sound will keep arriving at odd hours for the rest of her life. The pipeline her husband opened doesn't pause for the funeral. The next client is already booking a flight. And Pizza is only the first. A trafficker named Garcia and a Colombian colonel named Gonzalez are moving through the machine's orbit right now. Neither will die of old age. By mid-1999, the bosses are chasing Vega instead of the other way around. The question is no longer whether they'll pay, it's what exactly they think they're buying. Years later, a federal appeals court will print the menu in volume 428 of the Federal Reporter: phony cooperation deals, staged drug busts, manufactured cooperation credit, theater built to make a trafficker look valuable to American justice. Then, one sentence that reframes everything. It remains unclear whether any of these promises were ever carried out. The surrenders are real, the agents, the jets, the dinners, real. In a machine moving tens of millions, the one imaginary component is the bribe, because cooperation genuinely does buy leniency in America, legally, for free. Vega simply tells the bosses their millions feed a blitz committee in Washington, corrupt officials blessing soft landings for cash. And the twist that makes it art, the blitz committee actually exists. He sells fake access to a real thing, the only lie that survives a smart victim's lawyers. They fly to Washington, they dig, they come back nodding. The pitch, as clients later describe it: living at the beach with the blessing of the US government. What else do you want? Then it scales. The Intercontinental Miramar, Panama City. Vega's operation books an entire floor, and over 2 days, somewhere between 30 and 40 of the most wanted men on the planet get pitched suite by suite, an assembly line for surrender, while 4 real DEA agents wait down the hall like the closing act of a show. In one of those suites, a boss sits with a pen over a genuine cooperation agreement. He knows what the ink means. From the second he signs, in the eyes of every man he ever moved product with, he is a snitch. Signed, dated, witnessed. So the day he realizes no bribe ever reached any official, what's his move? Call the police? He's their cooperator. Tell the cartel? That's confessing he flipped, and men die slowly for that. They nearly all sign. Every man who signs goes quiet forever, a con with no complaint department. Every victim a wanted man holding his own confession. How high can the price of a handshake climb? And whose deposit bought that steak dinner from the opening? A Medellín trafficker they call El Medico, Zapata, hears the pitch and agrees to the biggest number yet: $42 million. $7 million down. Rewind. February 10th, 2000. The jet at Fort Lauderdale executive, the handshake on the tarmac. That was Zapata. The cold open of this story was one man's deposit, and the paperwork preserves that night down to the dinner, a private room in South Beach. At the head of the table, a man with an 8-figure price on his freedom, hours from handing himself to the United States. On either side of him, models Vega flew in for the occasion, his day job aimed at a new subject, beauty arranged around a frightened man until he stops being frightened. Across the table, real federal agents laughing at his jokes, the steak, the wine, the Merlot open at Vega's elbow. And when the check comes, nobody reaches for it because the receipt survives forever in the file. $840.50 charged to a government MasterCard, a wanted trafficker's last supper as a free man. And the United States left the tip. The handcuffs after dessert? Paperwork. He signs his cooperation agreement, posts bond, and within days is back on a Miami sidewalk. And $42 million isn't even the ceiling. Before it's over, the operation floats a $50 million package. Then there's Nicolas Bergonzoli, a trafficker who pays roughly $8 million. What does $8 million buy? The darkest receipt in the file. When Bergonzoli's case moves through court, something almost unheard of happens. Every proceeding in the matter gets sealed. The government proposes burying the docket in the vault, and the answer comes back verbatim. That would work for us, Judge. October 21st, 1999. Sanchez Cristancho, a man ABC News pegs at 30 tons of cocaine a month, surrenders through the pipeline. Meanwhile, Vega runs a side counter. Want to know if you've been secretly indicted in the United States? $50,000 per name. One order alone comes to $300,000 in checks. December 1999. $3 million handed over in New York. January 2000, another million passed near Miami International. The men writing these checks are Norte del Valle and Medellín heavyweights, men who audit their own accountants at gunpoint. In their world, the free front door is obviously the trap, and the expensive bribe is obviously the guarantee. Zapata agreed to pay $42 million for the same product with better catering. That's not a typo. That's the market price of a worldview. By early 2000, the machine is at maximum power and total invisibility. Private jets, sealed dockets, government plastic buying the wine. Then the room's empty. Vega's calendar runs 4 cities in 5 days: Panama, Bogota, Cancun, Miami. And sleep comes in 90-minute fragments on the jets in between. He pitches from the same penthouse he sleeps in. He answers his own door, and the men on the other side of it have had people burned for less than what he is actually selling them. So a ritual forms. Before every dinner, alone in the bathroom, he holds his right hand flat at eye level and watches the fingers. Steady, still steady. At 4 a.m., the same dream keeps landing. A client at a long table, counting 7 million forward, then backward, then looking up. He wakes with his jaw aching from the clench, checks the chain on the door, pours a glass he doesn't drink. Then wheels touch tarmac. A boss embraces him like a head of state, and the hand delivers the Merlot without a tremor. 14 straight months of yes, the hand is lying. 2,000 miles south in Bogota, men on the government's own side have started reading the paper trail. And paper, unlike traffickers, can testify. Who inside the DEA blows the first whistle? And how many written warnings does it take to stop a machine this profitable? October 12th, 1999. The eve of Operation Millennium, a massive, legitimate DEA Colombian takedown, months of work, hundreds of targets. Somebody warns the targets to lay low. Vega will later say the call came from Tinsley. Tinsley denies it. Both statements sit in the record, glaring at each other, and nobody has ever reconciled them. Inside the Bogota embassy that week, DEA agents who work in a country where cartels murder judges are reading reports that say the men they're hunting keep turning up in Miami, tanned, free, eating well on government plastic. One agent, Crane, puts it on the record: somebody should have went to prison for this. A supervisor, Colin, hears the Panama operation described and reaches for one word: surreal. Then he orders it shut down. The order is ignored. The jets keep flying. Clock 1. November 23rd, 1999. A customs agent named Kasarowski formally warns Tinsley in writing about what's moving through his group. Clock 2. January 20th, 2000. An attaché memo climbs the chain carrying a sentence that ends careers in most agencies. Vega is exploiting his position as a DEA CS to extort money. 12 days later, on February 1st, Internal Affairs opens its file. Clock 3. 3 clocks, 3 stacks of paper, one name in all of them. And the name is at 30,000 feet, living out of camera cases, every landing another yes waiting on the ground. A man moving that fast doesn't hear paper. So at this exact moment, the operation picks its next target. Not its biggest check, its most dangerous door. $30 million aimed at Medellín royalty, the Ochoa family. And the Ochoas do not believe everything in America is for sale. Cons don't die from police. They die the first time a mark refuses the premise. What happens when the machine pitches the one family built to refuse? And what is waiting for the salesman who walks into their front room? Fabio Ochoa. His family helped found the Medellín cartel. On October 13th, 1999, the Millennium Raids sweep him into a Colombian cell with extradition hanging over his head like a blade. Every incentive in his world says run, deal, or disappear. He does none of it. From inside that cell, he goes to war with a printing press. Soy inocente. I am innocent. 2 words, printed and circulated in public over and over, backed by a legal team of roughly 20 lawyers. His entire answer to the most powerful justice system on earth is a stack of cheap paper repeating one claim: come and prove it. Whatever else that is, it is not a man shopping for a trap door. Through the con's eyes, that's poison. The product is a corrupt exit built for guilty men who know they're guilty. Pitch that to a man whose surname, 20 lawyers, and printed pamphlets all scream innocence, and the purchase itself becomes a confession. Their own strategy guarantees a refusal, and the machine, drunk on 14 months of yes, can no longer imagine a no. The operation pitches them anyway. $30 million in cash and, incredibly, in confiscated narcotics, routed toward Fabio's freedom through his brother Jorge, through Bergonzoli, and through an attorney named Perez. The tapes preserve the room. Bergonzoli sits across from Jorge Ochoa, the brother the 30 million runs through, leaning in, warming into the pitch of his life, and he sells the machine the only way it can be sold, by confessing it. You've read about the big busts, he tells them, voice loosening, hands opening. Some of those were ours, staged. I was in them myself. Jorge nods at the right beats. Go back, he says. The staged ones, slower. And Bergonzoli goes back, slower, proudly. The theater, the soft landings, the cooperation credit conjured out of nothing, felony after felony with his own name inside everyone. The appeals court will later flatten it into one dry clause. He spoke openly of his participation in staged drug transactions and the resulting leniency. On the tape, he's hitting his rhythm, the biggest close of his career. He has no idea the family is recording him. In the Ochoa's world, a hidden wire is how funerals begin. Sapo, snitch, is the dirtiest word in their language, and men have died over the suspicion alone. Yet someone with that surname set a recorder within reach of Bergonzoli's voice, arranged the family's faces into hospitality, and never glanced at it once while the machine's best salesman took himself apart word for word. February 2000. The offer reaches Fabio's cell. On one side, the blade. An American extradition order, a concrete box, decades measured in count calls. On the other, $30 million, and the blade goes away. All he has to do is quietly become the thing his pamphlets exist to deny. He says no. Then he fires Perez, the attorney who carried the pitch, and cuts the machine's last thread into his family. Then comes the act nothing in this file predicts. The Ochoas, Medellín royalty, a brother in a cell waiting on an American extradition order, walk their tapes through the front door of the United States Attorney's Office and hand the evidence to the same government fighting to put Fabio on a plane. They are arming the enemy because the enemy is the only weapon within reach. Every other target of this con was gagged by his own signature. The Ochoas signed nothing and flipped for no one, so they owe the machine no silence. The con's full confession now sits inside a federal building, and Baruch Vega, fresh off a Cancun shoot, pouring Merlot for models in a Lincoln Road penthouse, never hears the window slam shut. March 21st, 2000. Penthouse number 5, 100 Lincoln Road, Miami Beach. By Vega's own telling, the first visitor of the day isn't federal. It's El Medico. Zapata, the man from the jet, the man from the dinner, out on bond since February, still waiting for the soft landing his deposit was supposed to buy, standing in a penthouse his money helped furnish. And he asks the question no client of this machine has ever managed to ask to Vega's face. Where is my $7 million? What did it buy? He has signed a cooperation agreement. In his world, that is a signed death warrant, and the bribe it was supposed to purchase may not exist. It bought you Washington, Vega says, smiling, selling calm to a dangerous man one more time. These things move slowly. They are moving. You said that in February, Zapata says. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't step closer. He just watches. The room shrinks to an open bottle of Merlot. Vega lifts it to pour, and the pour wanders, a thin red thread missing the glass, one bright drop spreading on white marble. 14 months of steady, gone in a centimeter. Zapata leaves without his answer. Vega stands there a long moment, looking at the drop on the marble. He doesn't wipe it up. Hours later, the door again. Harder. Agents flood the penthouse. Vega's hands go up, still not steady. And for the first time since 1985, a room full of armed federal officers is not his audience. It's his arrest. He watches them do to his home what he spent 15 years doing to other men's certainty. Open everything, trust nothing. Somebody opens a camera case and stops counting at $400,000 because in this apartment, even the cash travels in photography equipment. The seizure gets itemized. $453,982 in one line, $56,253 in another. And once the government freezes accounts and claws back everything else it can reach, the full forfeiture ledger reads $1,449,473.32, down to 32 cents. On March 22nd, Baruch Vega is formally arrested by the FBI. The agency that invented him, the same bureau that built this exact con in 1985, wrote its receipts in 1988, and cast Vega as the leading man, kicks in his door 15 years later for running the sequel without them. Then, on March 27th, the DEA quietly processes a form deactivating Baruch Vega as a confidential source for unsatisfactory cooperation/behavior. The memos accused him of extorting tens of millions. The form cites bad manners, the bureaucratic equivalent of a breakup text. Then come 52 days in jail-issue cotton. A man who dressed supermodels stands on a painted line at 4 a.m. to be counted, and he knows arithmetic the guards don't. Somewhere out there, clients who paid tens of millions for Washington are reading the Miami papers and learning there was no Washington. Men from the world that shot pizza in front of his wife over an open door. Every new face on the block gets the same half-second audit. When the Spanish in the next cell drops to a murmur, his stomach drops with it. He sleeps facing the door. And the ritual from the penthouse bathrooms, the flat hand at eye level, he stops checking. He knows what it's doing. On May 12th, he posts a $100,000 bond and walks out. Because the government is now holding a monster of its own making. To convict Vega on the money laundering and obstruction charges, prosecutors have to stand in open court and explain what the money was for. The program, the staged busts, the sealed dockets, the FBI's 1985 blueprint with the Jaguars in the file. Under oath, in public, every question from a defense attorney, a subpoena aimed at a badge. To put the con man on trial, the state has to put itself on trial. Can the United States afford to hold that trial? And what happens to the man who wants the whole story told to a jury? One veteran federal agent later sums up the problem on the record. It became such a mess. We're going to have to prosecute FBI agents, DEA agents, prosecutors. So, the felonies are dismissed, all of them, quietly, before a jury ever hears the word blitz. What survives is a single misdemeanor: failure to file a tax return on $239,000 of income. Sentence: time served, those 52 days. The judge even recommends against deportation for Vega's own safety. The Group 43 agents? Suspended, fired in 2003, reinstated in 2004 with back pay plus interest. The Justice Department review calls it not criminal in nature. Officials criminally charged, 0. If you're keeping a tally of institutions quietly forgiving themselves, subscribe. That tally is this channel's entire job. But dismissal only protects the government from one trial. There is another man who wants everything you just watched played to a jury. And his freedom depends on it. Miami, 2001. Fabio Ochoa, extradited, stands trial, and his defense reaches for the program, the $30 million pitch, the tapes his own family hand-delivered. What are those tapes worth in an American courtroom? The judge rules the program. Evidence has no nexus to his case and bars all of it. Every tape, every memo, every word. Prosecutors offer the front door deal. 20 years in exchange for standing in open court and saying the one word his pamphlets exist to never say. He refuses. An anonymous jury, 12 strangers whose names even the lawyers never learn, says it for him. 2 concurrent sentences of 365 months. At the defense table, a man in his 40s moves his lips through the division and arrives where the courtroom already has 30 years, 5 months. Federal law backdates the clock to the Millennium Raids, credits every day served, shaves good conduct time, and lands on December 2024. More than 9,000 nights. His 40s end under fluorescent light. His 50s pass standing on a painted line to be counted. Somewhere in there the hair goes gray, the pamphlets stop, 20 lawyers dwindle to appeals, and appeals dwindle to a date. And through all 9,000 nights, he never says the word. 2 clocks then, 52 days for the man who sold fake justice by the ton, 30 years and 5 months for the man who refused to buy it. And the buyers? By one account, no paying client ever served more than 8 years. Sanchez Cristancho, 30 tons a month, tops the payer's scale at 8. Bergonzoli's docket never leaves its vault. In 2021, his own ledger closes for good. Rasguño of the Norte del Valle, who ran to Cuba rather than pay, gets extradited in 2007 and gets 30 years. Every exit from this maze was bricked shut except the one that took cash, which leaves one buyer holding one unanswered question. Zapata, El Medico, the man from the jet, the man from the penthouse, serves roughly 5 years, and somewhere inside them, the answer he never got on Lincoln Road finally finds him. Picture it. A federal day room, a plastic chair bolted to the floor, a days-old Miami paper making the rounds of the unit. He unfolds it, and there it is in newsprint. Vega's felonies dissolving, the program in headlines, the case collapsing because the government cannot afford its own story. No committee ever worked his file. No bribe ever reached Washington, because no bribe ever left Miami. He reads it twice, folds the paper along its crease, sets it down, and sits very still in a room full of men who paid nothing to be there. The $7 million bought a steak dinner, a jet, and a signature. And here's the part he has 5 years to chew on. That signature, the cooperation agreement he treated as a death warrant, is the one piece of the package that actually works. Cooperation credit, the legal kind, the free kind, is what walks him out of federal custody in 5 years instead of 30. He paid $7 million for a coupon the government hands out for nothing. He walks Miami a free man. The file records no second visit to Lincoln Road and no refund. But the ledger has one more column, the men who never reached a courtroom. Correa, the walking billboard whose free stroll through arrivals sold an entire underworld, is burned, incinerated. The machine's proof of product reduced to something identifiable only on paper. Garcia comes home to his family in pieces. Someone who loved him had to choose a casket knowing it would stay closed at the service. Colonel Gonzalez is gunned down in March 2004, the same season Vega's last charge dissolves into a tax form. While the colonel's blood dries on a street in Colombia, the man whose machine touched all of them is signing misdemeanor paperwork in Miami. Pizza in front of his wife, Correa, Garcia, Gonzalez, everyone the machine used while it was hot, and when the shooting started, it never once reached back. The Miami press finds the phrase that becomes an entire genre, cartel de los sapos, the cartel of the snitches. Vega claims 114 surrenders. Officials will only say several. Either way, the surrenders were the smallest part of the haul. What the program actually manufactured was paranoia, self-replicating, eating the cartels from the inside long after the program died. Fear of the man in the next chair. And the salesman? By 2019, the record finds Baruch Vega in a modest house near the ocean in Maui, pushing 80, the fortune gone, spent, by his own accounting, on wine, jets, and model-related expenses. The $1,449,473.32 is forfeited by procedural default. The man who outpapered the United States loses nearly $1.5 million to a missed filing, sues the government for unpaid informant wages, and loses that too. Still hinting at classified missions he can't quite discuss. Still lighting his own portrait. Still retouching. One landing left. December 23rd, 2024. Another jet. Another tarmac. A plane touches down in Bogota, and Fabio Ochoa steps into the warm night. 67 now. Gray. Every appeal lost. A quarter century after the raids took him. No agents wait to shake his hand. Nobody bought this landing. It cost 9,000 nights, paid in full. and one detail outlasts everything else in the file. The only American court that ever weighed his extortion story on the merits did not call him a liar. It assumed his account was true, and ruled that, legally, it didn't matter. 3 men get the last word. Ochoa, on Vega. He is a big liar. The DEA's Miami chief. On Vega. Extremely useful. And Vega on all of it. A story has 3 sides, your side, my side, and the truth, and no one is lying. A liar, an asset, an honest man. In a con whose victims could never call the police, maybe all 3 hold at once. Drop your verdict in the comments. Who conned whom? And if you want to see this game played in reverse, a cartel's world run from inside the FBI itself, watch The Man Who Ran a Cartel from Inside the FBI next. Same machine, opposite direction.